He's got fast in black lungs, made of clove splintered shards. They're the kind that will talk through wheezing of cars. And I hear him.
The Mars Volta were a band from El Paso in Texas. They existed from 2001 to 2012. They have variously been described as experimental rock, progressive metal even. They're somewhat crossing several genre boundaries and not quite meeting any genre expectations, actually. Their driving force was a guy called Omar Rodriguez Lopez, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, who wrote most of the songs. The guy Cedric Bixler Zavala was their vocalist, who was the other mainstay. There are a lot of other members who came and went, including one of theirs, I think it was Omar's brother, who was the drummer for a while. They've got a fairly complex history. There was a period after they broke up where these two main guys weren't talking to each other, but apparently they're now back in business in 2022. Hi, my name's Dan, and if you know this album, or if you're meeting it for the first time, then I'd love to know what you think of it. Please hit me up in the comments. That's what the comments are there for, so that I can find out what you think. You can find out what other people think. We can have a discussion, and it'll all be nice and shiny and lovely. And if you want things to be nice and shiny and lovely, why not click the subscribe button? Because that makes everything in your life hugely shiny and lovely. Oh, well, at least it'll let you know when I create new videos, which is quite often at the moment. So this is the Mars Volta's second album, and I would describe it as experimental rock, probably progressive rock, I would say, in that it's pushing the boundaries of rock and the expectations. Let's try and do some description and some kind of explanation of what's going on here. So there's a lot of guest musicians. The core of the Mars Volta are these two guys, Omar and Cedric, and they have a lot of other people involved, including bizarrely Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers on trumpet. No, not on bass. He is a long-time friend of the band, so is having read that up, it's not a huge surprise that he's there. It's a little bit of a surprise that he's a trumpet player. Omar did the production here, and he used a quite interesting technique in that he didn't let people hear what other people had played and made them play to a metronome and then mixed stuff together afterwards. It wasn't all like that, but most of it apparently was. Now, this is a technique that Miles Davis, who was a jazz guy from way back, had tried, and the result of it is that it's very busy. And the idea is that doing this, you get a solo performance out of everybody. So you actually get this. I don't want to say it's all very busy, but some of it is very busy. It's a bit like having several toddlers running around your house all at once. Stylistically, it's rock, but it's pushing the boundaries somewhat. There's little bits of kind of metal sensibility in there, but not really kind of the heavy crunch or chug to it. There's big soundscapes, and the word soundscapes, I think, is a really good word for this album. There's sound effects in there. There's stuff that's the noises of frogs, apparently, but there's also a lot of use of studio technology and studio effects to create interesting soundscapes and interesting effects. There's at times some quite odd rhythms and styles. There's one of the tracks keeps switching into this really slow kind of. I'm not good on Latin. It sounds like a bossa nova to me, but I don't know quite what. But it was interesting. I've not heard anything quite like that before. I inevitably have people that kind of in my head I'm doing comparisons with. I try to keep these limited in my reviews because not everybody watching the reviews will know of the music of the people that I'm comparing with. But in this case, Muse very strongly come to mind for two reasons. One is that the guy's voice is quite like Matt Bellamy's, and the other is because of the way they build the textures in the music. Evanescence, again, sort of female voice, but some other kind of background is similar. And then Pink Floyd. So that experimental end of stuff sounds quite like some of Pink Floyd's early stuff. So Pink Floyd very early were very experimental, used tape loops and all sorts of stuff. And then a bit later they were into their kind of big space rocky jams. And there's bits like that in here. And then later they were just into this really huge stadium rock sound of it's just expansive. And again, this album has that expansive feel to it. Which I always enjoy. Although it's really, really meticulously produced, it's still quite emotive. And a lot of that, well, I'm going to say a lot of that is down to the vocals, but actually the textures that are there are also very evocative. But the vocals are very strong. He's got a high and strong voice. I said it before. It reminds me of Matt Bellamy of Muse. It reminds me of Led Zeppelin a bit. The lyrics themselves are a stream of consciousness. They're not really meant to actually work together to say anything coherent. They do have some meaning to them. They can be quite dark at times. So it's, as I said near the beginning, I think of this as being progressive rock. It's not similar to 1970s progressive rock. And this is a good thing because although there's a lot of great progressive rock around these days, and I've listened to quite a lot of modern prog, my biggest complaint about modern progressive rock is that it's mostly kind of somewhat copycat of Yes and Genesis from back in the 70s particularly. So this is different, and that's good because it's pushing the boundaries of music, but it's good because it's doing it in a way that I actually enjoy. So I really liked it. I would say it's not for everyone, but if you like your progressive stuff from the 70s, then give this a go. You might hate it, you might love it. I loved it, and that's it from me for now.